I always think it's interesting that lawyers and doctors are compared because there is no comparison. Everybody loves doctors,
right?
Like if you're dating somebody and you bring him or her home and your mother's there, like, what's he do? And like, he's a doctor. Oh, everyone loves that. But you have a lawyer though, and nobody likes lawyers. Until you need more like cops, really. Like nobody wants.
There's way more lawyer jokes than doctor jokes out
there.
Yeah.
Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I'm your host, Justin Chopin, business owner, lawyer, dad, world's best husband, traveler, and adventure seeker. On this podcast, we mix business with pleasure. We'll dive into growth strategies, entrepreneurial adventures, the business of law, and prove that business isn't boring. So let's get ready because we are going above the legal limit. Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I'm your host, Justin Chopin. Very special guest today, Magic Mike, hashtag not that Magic Mike.
Perfect.
I got it this time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being on the show. For those of you listening, I don't like to have secrets. We've already recorded this show. And so what you're hearing now, we've already talked about. It will not be funny or informative because we're basically just doing it over again. So if you're listening and you're thinking, this is not funny, nor is this informative, understand that it's not our fault. Technical difficulties.
Well, it should still be entertaining, but it might get repetitive. Like, it should still be entertaining, but it might get repetitive.
But if you're not entertained, it's okay. It's okay.
You don't have to be entertained.
Move on to the next clip. I think there's one. The next one's like me with a chiropractor. So, stay here. Stay here.
That's very entertaining. Yeah.
So we were talking about what you do on stage.
One of his back episodes.
On one of the back episodes, right. As a comedian and as a magician. And so we have thousands of listeners all over the world who are very interested in what's happening next with the Chopin Law Firm. Tell all of our listeners a little bit about that.
Well, the one thing that I was hoping that we captured was when I talked about the fact that in second grade, my teacher said I would make a good lawyer, which in turn made me realize, wow, then I guess I could be a magician. So it's
the same thing.
It's a lot of the same things. It's there's a lot of misdirection involved. And I don't know what you're saying. You don't keep secrets. I mean, lawyers have to keep secrets many times. And magicians have to as well.
Maybe I've reframed it. I like to think we can get like really like deep, like Sartre, right? And so the art of being a magician,
right,
and sometimes being a lawyer is being able to see yourself through the eyes of another. It's a very Sartrean concept. Did I say it right? And you know what? I've been out of school a long time, folks.
But that's why we practice in front of a mirror.
Right. Sorry. So seeing yourself through their eyes, hearing your words through their ears, how will a jury? How will they be receptive to this? Will they like this? Is it funny? Is it a bad idea to be funny? Is it a good idea to be funny? I don't know. There's some times when it's like you're going and you make a joke. I always love this. Comedians routinely just get slammed in media because they make the right joke at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Right. So Kathy Griffin makes like a horrible Donald Trump joke and she takes it like a little too far and then she's canceled. Like she ain't going anywhere. Fast forward 6 months, everyone's like, we hate Trump. Or like the Dixie Chicks say like they just say the wrong thing at the Chicks. They say the wrong thing at the wrong time. And I always think comedians, those are just two silly examples. There's tons of examples where comedians get canceled, if you will.
It's timing, all about timing.
Because you never know what's going to hit, right? And if you're on a roll and you're just going and you're going, and then if you look at it, on video a year later, you could be like, ooh, that's really... that's embarrassing, or that's tone deaf, or I had no idea all those people were going to die when I made that joke, right? I'm like, you don't know you're making a joke about this airplane and it crashes like 5 minutes later.
This is from a Woody Allen movie years ago where he says, if it bends, it's funny. If it breaks, it's not funny.
That's it. It's not. Right.
I've always loved that. But to give your listeners an idea of what I do, it's easy to find on social media. Hashtag not that magic Mike has been my easiest way to find me. But I do a lot of stage comedy magic. I host a lot of events as an MC. I do my full hour magic show. And then I also do a lot of sleight of hand at parties, corporate events, that sort of thing. But I guess the main thing that maybe your type of listeners, your market would be really interested in, and something that eventually I think will be easier to market than my entertainment, is the fact that I'm now doing improv comedy seminars. I've taught improv comedy for years at actually Jesuit High School in town. They have an improv team called the J Troop, and realized actually during the pandemic that there's so many principles of improv that when you apply them to other things just makes sense, and problem solving and team building starts to really connect because of these principles of improv, where essentially you're trying to find the right path in the most efficient way possible when you're creating a scene through improv. So that's the type of thing that I've kind of brought to the corporate world. And so that's what I'm focused on outside of just being a magician.
Just being a magician. Yeah. So I love this, and for several things. One, I actually went to Jesuit.
Oh, nice.
So,
right. That was the Catholic school you were talking about?
Well, that was the first one, or the second one. I somehow, all of my education was Catholic education. Especially my 6-year-old last night had nightmares, something, I don't know, but bringing mommy to hell. And I was like, Jesus.
That was a proper response.
my wife was like, do you think you should take him to church? I was like, well, I will, but I don't know that that's going to cure his nightmare. That could make it worse. And so I told him, I said, well, look, son, I spent 22 years in Catholic education. So when I say this, I have some authority. I don't have like the Pope backing. Like, I'm not infallible, but I have some authority when I say, Mommy's not going to hell. I promise. And he says, I don't believe you.
Wow.
So I was like, okay.
Remind me not to show him a coin trick.
Yeah, right. Yes. That's why I have no sleep today, because my 6-year-old had nightmares. And we're trying to convince him that my lovely wife and his mother is in fact, she will be saved. She is not going to hell. I don't know. He spent like 1 week at Jesuit camp. And I think during the camp, they told him about like heaven, hell, and you go upstairs, you don't want to go downstairs. And he's like, oh man, we're all going downstairs. So he's observant. He knows. But so I went to Jesuit. But the other thing I was going to say is I love improv. I went to like a really small college where we didn't have like, Garth Brooks wasn't coming to where to play for us, and so we had to find our own entertainment. And but we had a lot of improv groups, and that was like the one show that I didn't miss, because I always think it's fun, it's interesting. I like that it's comedy with your peers in a lot of ways. So you're not looking at like David Copperfield, right? When we're talking about magic, right? You're not. Right. It's not this like and so and it's just a little earther form of comedy.
That's the one show you don't want to miss, because like how many times would you actually go to see Garth Brooks? If eventually you're like, well, I've been there, it's the same concert. Whereas what's special about an improv show is the fact that it's never been done before. It's never going to be the same way again. And really, any time you can incorporate improv, probably even in a courtroom for the what do you call your audience? We call
jurors.
It jury. We call it audience. But
it's the same.
But if you have these improv moments, anytime that it feels like a special moment for the people that are in your crowd, that's what really creates magic, because for them, they're going to hold on to that and remember it forever, even if it's something you can recreate, but it creates that feeling of this totally is not how it goes. This happened impromptu. It's amazing the effect that it has on people.
I think if we could incorporate that style of comedy, sort of this whose line is it anyway, I think they redid that. I haven't seen the new ones, but the old ones, like the OGs, into a courtroom setting, my job would be so much more pleasurable.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Be like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, somebody give me
a suggestion
like,
from the jury. Murder.
Murder? I was going to say murder. We're like, yes,
all right.
Murder.
Yeah,
now,
so you've
who's the defendant? Who did it? Him? No, not him. Not him. Pick someone else. I can tell you right now, he didn't do it.
Just act out the scene.
Like, that guy in the robe. You're like, yes, now we're going to do it. I like that. Or we should do that. We're going to give it, what? Some things work. You can give it a shot.
I guess that's the one time maybe you wouldn't want to enforce the yes and principle, because we talk about that constantly, about how we should incorporate it into life, the principle of improv of yes anding someone. But if the judge says, did you kill this man, saying yes and in that situation may not be a good idea. That might not work for you.
So we do. So I assume when you say yes and, it's a way of bridging into the next like topic or in the next joke, or right?
And it's a way of accepting your partner's idea and building from there, as opposed to negating that idea or trying to go with your idea, which is something in a brainstorming session, with, like, let's say a company's having a brains. Everybody has heard the notion of there's no bad ideas,
right?
Meaning that whatever you put on the table, we're going to accept. Well, that's easy to say, but unless you've trained your mind to think that way and to respond that way, then within 2 seconds, you're still at least internally negating someone's idea and going like, what? That's not what I was talking about. Who's putting this guy in charge? He's taking it a whole different direction. We are not on the same page. Instead of going, yes, and adding to that and verbally adding to an idea instead of saying no, but.
I was going to say lawyers are trained in no, but.
Exactly.
Like, well, no, but that's
and a lot of skill. In life we're kind of trained that way, that we sort of come up that way of like life treats us that way, where everyone's saying no. I mean, just look at traffic, Right. I use that as an example of like, what's the number one place where a yes and principle would really make a difference would be in traffic situations,
Nice.
But no. Not going to happen. Yeah.
No, I'm going. You can stay.
Which, on the topic of how lawyers, I've always been curious about. So a lawyer and a doctor is always considered a revered profession, or at least one that you figure they're going to be driving a nice car. But those are the two professions that are constantly just practicing.
Yeah.
Like, when are they ever going to get it right?
They're never going to get it
like it's okay for you to say I have a law of practice, but you wouldn't hear like an architect doesn't say that. Yeah, I'm practicing architecture.
Right.
Even,
like,
I don't say I have a magic practice. You know what I mean?
So I do yoga for like my back, like not like my spiritual well-being, but my physical well-being.
We're going to be talking about that in the chiropractor episode.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't say
callback.
Like that.
And that was a call back and a pun at once, because it was a call back. So
prior topic and then
2 points.
I like that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. And so you're not supposed to say you do yoga, right? So no one would just be like, I do. Like,
you're not?
No.
Oh, see, that's new to me. Okay.
And you don't.
That's like
you have
wrong?
to speak, and there's like a yoga tone. You have to speak. So you practice yoga. So in your practice today. Yeah. So the people who
I perform yoga.
I was like, right. I was gonna say,
I don't do yoga. I think it.
Right. So the people who do yoga, fine, screw it. The people who do yoga a lot say that they practice it.
Okay.
Because nobody gets it right.
So
nobody gets it perfect.
Yoga instructor, lawyer, and doctor. Those are allowed to practice for the rest of their profession. Everyone else should have it down by the time they leave school.
Exactly. Like, you should actually know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, if your doctor is like, well, I'm practicing abdominal surgery, you would think,
I hope you get it right.
Okay.
Yeah. Practice in front of a mirror.
You only get one shot, so let's make sure we get this one right.
Well,
maybe like the last one.
Maybe that's why at Hogwarts you're not supposed to practice magic outside of school, because you shouldn't be practicing anymore at that point. You should have it down.
You're just gonna have to know what it is.
No, it makes sense. I always kind of wonder why the wizards were telling me this. Okay.
I always think it's interesting that lawyers and doctors are compared, because there is no comparison. Everybody loves doctors.
Right.
Like if you were dating somebody and you bring him or her home, and your mother's there, like, what's he do? And like, he's a doctor. Oh, everyone loves that. You're respected. You're respectable.
Until I no longer love my doctor because he told me to cut out fried foods. And I was like, but right then that day I made a resolution to find a new doctor.
I'm never going to go back to you,
exactly.
Sir. That's my resolution.
My resolution, find a new doctor.
Right. You have a lawyer, though, and nobody likes lawyers. Until you need more, like cops, really. Like, nobody wants.
There's way more lawyer jokes than doctor jokes out
there.
Yeah.
What do you have against doctors? They're just doing their best. Even when they kill you, they're like, well, we were doing our best. They're like, well, he was doing his best.
That's how I feel about like cop versus fireman. They're both heroes, but man, do people hate cops. But nobody ever hates a fireman. If a fireman shows up, they're there to save the day. Right. Nobody's going to give them any crap.
Nobody's
but man, they don't
got
take
all my
the flack
shit wet.
Yeah,
my house might have been on fire, but everything was dry.
That room was dry. Yeah, thanks for the hose. Yeah. One time my van caught on fire, and so I got to see what they do as a reaction, which it's got to be so fun. They all hop out of the truck and immediately break all the windows, just smash all the windows.
They're doing that for them.
And they basically smash the windows, hose the car down, then they take off. We're done. I'm like, wow, what a day.
It's like a bunch of frat boys in the middle of the night with a keg of beer. Like, they're doing that for their pleasure, not yours.
I get why they'd want to do that.
Yeah.
How fun. You just show up and bust up a car and then leave. That's amazing. What a great job.
There was a film, this is very off topic. They were filming Big Mama's House Part 2.
Oh my God.
Part 2, not to be confused with
I was there.
Original Big Mama's House.
You know Armando, right?
I do.
Okay, you got to rewind. I don't remember where the time code is, but you'll see me and Armando handing a file folder to each other several times in the back of a scene. Just
in Big Mama's House, Part 2?
Big Mama's House 2. I tell people all the time, I actually got to be background in one of the worst movies ever made of all time. It's an amazing accomplishment.
I really wanted to see it, but I didn't.
No, you don't.
But I was living on Magazine Street at that time. And that was when, we were Hollywood of the South. I don't know what we are now. Now we're just like, bankrupt Hollywood of the South. So just like, no operations.
Sunken city.
Right. So we're just hot and wet. But Hollywood of the South, I'm living on Magazine Street. I got to get to, I think I got to be like in court in the morning. I'm like all dressed up. Yes, it's 1,000 degrees outside. I go to get in my car. I'm like, where's my car? And I'm thinking, was I drunk? Oh, what did I do last night?
The film
and then, because you never know, like maybe, I don't know, maybe, and I was young. I was in my 20s. And so I'm like looking all over. I can't find the car. Finally, I see a cop there. And I'm like, hey, officer. My car is missing. Like, I don't know. What do you do? Like, you yell it from the rooftops. I'm not going to call 911 because my car is missing. And it looked like you could tell like he had been there for a while. Like he had like a lawn chair or something. And so I said, have you seen it? And he goes, no, I haven't seen it. And I said, well, did you tow it? And he goes, no, I didn't tow a car. He said, well, what does it look like? I said, well, it was a red convertible. And he goes, no, I haven't seen anything like it. And I knew that they were filming this movie. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. I was like, I mean, it is New Orleans. It likely was stolen. Maybe not. And so I just had this idea, like, Justin, I don't know. I don't believe this cop. I don't believe that you didn't tow my car. And I'm like I'm just kind of like standing there, like hemming and hawing, sweating. And I look, and like 150 yards away, I see sort of a shimmer of red. And and a reflection in the windshield. And I'm like, is that my car? And the cop turns, he goes, oh, that car? I said, yeah. He's like, yeah, we towed that. I said, why did you tow my car? He says, we're filming Big Mama's House Part 2.
It's huge. So they just moved it down, though.
Yeah, like frat boys in the middle of the night.
They didn't like take it. You didn't have to pay for it.
No, they just picked it up
and moved it down further where they weren't using it.
And it just moved it. Like, we're just going to put it over here. We need this space.
This is for us. It's such a cool thing, though. Like they know that all they're going to do is piss everybody off if they start, charging these people to tow their cars because they forgot they were filming. So I've had that happen before too, and it's so I'm thinking how cool of it. They just take the car, move it a couple blocks.
We're just going to move it
because we need this space. That makes so much sense.
We're not going to.
You think you're crazy for a minute there. You're like, but my car, how did it?
I know. It's like, because anything could have happened last night. There. I have no idea. I could have been like drugged or, I don't know.
That's why the concept of a boot never made sense to me because the whole idea is you shouldn't be in this space. We need this space.
You want to be in this space? Baby, you ain't ever leaving.
We needed this space. You left your car here. Other people can't park here. So what are we going to do? We're going to keep it here for another 3 days. Now nobody can use the space. Yeah.
I always like when I see the people who like take the tire off. Like, to me, that's the ultimate act of revenge. Like, sure, you'll have to get a new tire, but I respect.
Oh, you can do it without taking your tire off. I mean, I may be speaking from experience, and it might have happened more than one time. There was a group of friends that we called Operation Cut and Run at one point, and it was during a filming process. Armando was there. In fact, it made it into the one of the things we shot called Below Sea Level. The boot with some duct tape on it became a main prop, a prop in the show. In the movie. Yeah, it was great.
I would think a boot with some duct tape on it is like almost like a way like a prop can be a metaphor, right? So it's sort of a metaphor for like New Orleans. Like New Orleans is essentially a boot with some duct tape on it.
I like that.
A lot of condensation, on the ground. Yeah, I think that like encapsulates
an abandoned
our city.
boot.
Yeah, like it's just an old boot that got cut off a tire with some duct tape.
There's interesting ways to. I always describe New Orleans as a circus on fire, but one that doesn't travel.
It's a non-traveling circus.
Yeah, non-traveling circus that has caught fire.
It's a bankrupt.
But nobody cares that it's on fire. They're still watching.
They're
the circus.
still watching. Yeah, just sort of watching it all play.
But there's a circus. Why do we have to leave?
So hey, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me today on Above the Legal Limit. If you enjoyed the show and you want to hear more about business and law, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't like the show, keep it to yourself. Remember, there's no limit to what we can achieve. We will see you next week. Until then, even though we're above the legal limit, let's drive safely. Cheers, everyone.